I mean, we can address that once we like get into it. I wish I'd been recording the whole time. Like that probably would have been like a funny thing to have. But like my last thing I was gonna say is, yeah, you know, like we had the condenser mic, but there was, like you said, Logan smacking the table. Does anyone need to use the restroom? Because we had not one, but 2 episodes where someone got up
Flush the
to
toilet.
use the restroom. Yeah, there's a toilet flushing in the background. So does anyone have to use the restroom?
I'm good.
Okay. On that,
Ask me again whenever I finish this cup of coffee.
that Sonic cup of coffee, that can't be good. Do you want me to make you a normal cup of coffee?
No, I'm good right now.
No, you're good for right now. Okay. If halfway through this episode you want a cup of coffee, just let me know. I'll
Okay.
just the audience can hear the coffee grinder. Like we'll just go loud. Hey, I am Timothy McDaniel,
Cole, right?
I am Josh Glass.
and this is the Movie Rubric. This is our first time getting together. We're in the back room of my house that I call the dungeon, and this is really honestly not our first podcast. We were just talking about that here a second ago. We've done a podcast before. It went very poorly. I don't think any of us were aware of even how to use a microphone properly, let alone audio processing equipment, how to upload it. We were just having fun, and
I'll just say I wasn't invited to that one, so
well, it sucked.
that's probably why it sucked.
I can vouch.
It was not good. So count your blessings. This is going to be a podcast where we talk about movies. We might do some TV shows. The goal is to kind of stay current events and things like that. But I mean, if there's something coming out that like is a little older and there's like a dead space, I'm not opposed to going back and like maybe, you know, one day we'll just, if we just really break out, people want us to review like Breaking Bad, we can go back and do, you know, that.
Or the English dub of Squid Game.
Cole, there's something wrong with you that you
There
like
is,
the
yes.
English dub of Squid Game.
Is it that I like it, or that I like how you react to me saying I like it?
Your guys are going to learn quick. Cole likes to stir the pot. I'm also going to go ahead and address, we were just talking, I may leave it in there, may not. Through most of my life, I went by the name Tyler. That was my old name. I have shaved that name. I've shirked it off, and I now go by Tim, which is my actual first name because it's a really boring reason. But when I went to college, I just didn't want to correct the teachers when they took roll call and they said Tim McDaniel. I was like, yeah, I'm here. I just didn't feel like correcting anybody. So I slowly but surely started introducing myself as Tim. But the 2 people sitting here at the table with me, they've been best friends of mine since I was very young. Cole and I went to pre-K together. We bonded whenever a girl kicked me off of the tricycle and I was crying. He came over to console me, and that was where our friendship started. So they know me as Tyler. So if that slips out, that is why. Today we're going to be reviewing Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. We just went and saw it Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday.
And
Yeah.
we've done a lot of things since then. I hate to say it. I wish we could have.
I'm just gonna say disclaimer now. These other 2 took notes and were prepared. I didn't, so I've slept since then. So I'm gonna be trying to remember what I saw in theater on Friday. So we'll see how that goes.
You just banter off of what we say.
Yeah.
And there you
I'm
go.
gonna need some refreshing on.
Just agree or disagree with us and you'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It's funny looking here at the table. We got like the 3 level of notes. I have the laptop with my very like detailed notes that I took. And then Josh is over there using a cell phone with notes that when you just jot those down, you said like 30, 40 minutes ago.
Yeah. An hour at most. Yeah.
I gave rankings. I didn't.
And then Cole has a laptop, but has deigned not to take notes on it. He just has a MacBook on the table.
Listen, I gotta know what we're doing here most of the time.
He wants to look official with his Mac sitting
Yeah,
on
I
the
mean,
table.
I for some reason thought there was gonna be cameras on us, so I need to look official. But this is awkward. It's
There's
just audio.
it is a podcast. So we've done a couple things. We also just went and saw Steve Vai last night, which was awesome. So our brains are not completely inundated. He's wearing a Steve Vai shirt. Cole has just lifted it up. So I mean, we're not completely inundated, and like we didn't just see the movie. But I think that I still have a really good sense of what it was. So my first question for you guys is like, did you like the movie?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Generally, but I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Like, was it good? I thought so, but also I think it kind of helps its case when you're coming off of Love and Thunder, which was someone defend that movie. I dare you.
Nope.
And
Nope. Not me.
I didn't see it, so I
and
can't.
Multiverse of Madness, which okay, that was all right, but it was just disappointing. So I mean, like Marvel, this was gonna be a make or break for Marvel. It was
Yeah.
it was gonna
I
be
think you're
like
right.
they couldn't afford another dud to go into the theaters there.
You're right. I was so pumped for Love and Thunder, and it kind of was a kick in the shins, to put it lightly.
After especially Ragnarok was the best Thor movie that they came out with.
One of the best Marvel movies,
Yeah, that's
in my opinion.
That's in my top 5.
Yeah.
I actually haven't watched any of the Thors.
Well,
so.
go watch some of the Thors. Actually, just go watch Ragnarok.
Just go watch Thor 2, come back and have a
Oh,
conversation
Thor 2.
with us.
That's arguably worse than Love and Thunder.
It's honestly a tough call because Love and Thunder...
I would say Love and Thunder is better.
They're bad for different reasons. Love and Thunder tried to go too hard into the comedy side of things, whereas Thor 2 tried to go really serious. So they're bad for different reasons.
It was really serious, but also dull.
Yeah. But like that brings up a good point. It's something I really liked about Wakanda Forever was that it had some comedy, but unlike normal Marvel movies where they're like throwing out a catchphrase every time they do something, it was a very grounded, serious movie at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was super serious. I mean, it starts off super somber. I mean, for various reasons. But yeah, the whole movie has a tone of like, okay, there's some funny parts, but this is a very serious time for Wakanda and the characters of Black Panther.
I mean, let's talk about the intro. So like, I guess I should have said this up front. You're listening to a podcast where we are going to review Black Panther Wakanda Forever. There's going to be spoilers.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say that now, just in case you're like the one person listening in who's like, maybe they'll tell me whether I should go see it or not. So the opening was probably hands down my new favorite Marvel opening to like a Marvel movie.
It did a really good job because I mean, you had to address it. Like, you couldn't just not address the fact that Chadwick Boseman died.
Yeah.
Like it's I get it. They could have probably done the Princess Leia route from episode 9 where it's like, hey, here's some unused footage, or here's some stuff where it's like
Princess Leia was like, maybe not episode 9. Sorry, I was thinking of Rogue One, where at the end of Rogue One they just had like a straight up CG Leia, and like they also had a CG Grand Moff Tarkin, I'm pretty sure, in Rogue One. And like
I was like, please don't do a CG Chad like that. That's just
Disney has a bad history of that.
No, don't do that. Like, but they addressed it really well. They handled the whole situation really well.
They did. They caught the emotion of the actual passing of Chadwick Boseman in the movie, and it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like it was out of place. It felt like it was real life happening, which it was real life. But I don't know. It was super surreal. I had chills through the whole entire opening, even through the title sequence, which was silent but not silent. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not.
Just like a little windy noises.
It was light wind noise, and it was chilling.
I'm getting chills now.
Yeah,
I really am. I'm like literally getting chills here.
I was sitting in the theater, and I was in awe. It was really good.
That 15 seconds of like that near silence and just clips of him, like I'm not one to normally cry in movies, like especially like a Marvel movie, right?
Yeah.
But I cried a little. I really did. And that's not just me being like, oh, I want to say I love this movie. I want to say it. Like I genuinely teared up. I genuinely like felt like a pain in my chest because I mean, every interview you've seen where people talk about Chadwick, they talk about just how amazing of a guy he was and how he hid his cancer up until the last moment, and it just hit home.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, that was like one of 3 times that I teared up in the movie, and I'm not a big emotional guy. So for the movie to hit me 3 different times at different points, really says something about the way it was.
Yeah,
the way it was made.
Man, that kind of leads me into like my next point here a little bit. I put down here, what were your thoughts going in prior to the movie? Because I personally didn't watch a single trailer. I knew nothing about this movie other than that it was going to be about Wakanda. Obviously, it's in the title. I managed to avoid spoilers of any kind. I didn't even know that Namor was going to be in the movie. That was a shock for me. And I think that helped my enjoyment of the movie. So not knowing how they were going to handle Chadwick was good for me. But like, what were your guys' thoughts going into the movie? Were you expecting it to be good? What did you think of the trailers?
I mean, I'm be real. It probably wasn't fair for me to give it was more towards like Marvel in general, Disney, whoever you want to blame for that. Like just really the last couple years, like it's been very so inconsistent with how they've done movies. I mean, trying to think. I mean, most of them have been kind of it's either meh or duds, and you get the masterpiece that is No Way Home. But it's, I mean, I was not expecting much going into it. I was like, I've gotten burnt twice by the last 2 movies I went and saw from Marvel. Like, I'm not getting burnt a 3rd time. I'm gonna go with low expectations, and maybe it'll surprise me. And it did. I enjoyed it.
It's not even just the movies. I'm just upset at how Marvel is handling its franchise, or sorry, Disney is handling its franchises in general. like they're splitting it up where you have to watch the Disney Plus original shows
Mhm.
to understand a lot of the things going on. I was very thankful that Black Panther had no associated whatsoever
It was
Disney Plus show
very
with it.
standalone kind of.
100% standalone.
You don't really get many of that.
Didn't even
anymore.
mention like I think the Avengers or anything like that.
The only time it mentioned the Avengers, there was one comment about when Thanos attacked and the lady disappeared.
You're right.
That was the only mention
Yeah.
that they were even in the MCU at that point, really.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to go ahead and look up the cast here real quick because I'm bad with names in general. So I'm going to go ahead and look up that person's name. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Like
Wakanda.
Nakomi or something.
Yeah.
Old lady.
No, I
the-
think you're talking about the girl who like went off
T'Challa's
to
lover.
Haiti, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Not Ironheart. Trying to see here. I'll look that up in a little bit. I know exactly who you're talking about. And you're right. That was one of the few references, but for the most part, it was a very standalone movie.
Mhm.
And I liked that. I did. I thought it was really cool that, and like,
Like, not everything has to be referencing the expanded universe every waking moment
Yeah.
of the film.
I mean, they did refer back to Black Panther, the first one,
That makes sense.
but that made sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't really do a lot of building.
not like you're
out
like
of the MCU.
I think if they reference other movies in the MCU, I'm not even as upset as like, because that's what I love about the MCU. I love that it's connected, but what I don't like is like Doctor Strange, the new one, Multiverse of Madness. Probably would have been a better movie if you didn't have to watch an entire season of a television show to even kind of halfway understand like the plot
Oh,
and a whole
yeah.
character's. You wouldn't understand Wanda's motivations or like
Mhm.
why she turned evil and is where she's at if you didn't watch WandaVision, which was pretty good. It was okay.
I enjoyed WandaVision a lot.
Like it had some good moments, it had some bad moments, but the fact that you had to watch 8 episodes
Mhm.
to even be able to then that's the barrier to entry to then go watch Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and 5 of those 8 episodes were plays on sitcoms from
Yeah.
the
I mean,
50s through the
come on,
90s.
that was fun.
It was fun, but
that was
it
the best
just
part
like,
of the show, in my opinion.
That was fun.
It's like, what does this have to do with Marvel?
Yeah,
It doesn't.
Yeah.
That's what was fun about it.
yeah. So that was what I don't mind referencing movies. I just don't like whenever I have to go watch a TV show. And I'm worried that Star Wars is kind of be going down that route here too, because with the amount of shows that they're pumping out, and they're all interconnected to some degree. I mean, the Book of Fett was basically a sequel to The Mandalorian. I don't think Disney knows how to make standalone shows anymore. So this was a breath of fresh air in that regard. Yeah. So kind of going on here, we can go ahead and go into the plot and the rubric here in just a moment. I know we've kind of talked just like about everything surrounding the movie. We haven't actually talked about the movie yet. What was your guys' like favorite part of the movie? I'll go ahead and say mine. The spear fight on the bridge. So they just got Ironheart, rescued her from college. They're running away from the cops. I thought that whole sequence was great.
Yeah.
I don't think I loved the fact that Shuri, I think her name was like, I have to take this motorcycle. Like that didn't make sense to me. Like, why? Why'd you have to get on the motorcycle?
Well, it's that rebellious, young
Yeah.
person. You're not going to tell me what to do kind of mentality.
Yeah, I guess that really is probably what it was. Trying to demonstrate that character arc of hers.
Mhm.
So other than that, I loved that whole sequence. I thought that was very well done, very well shot. It was a great introduction to Ironheart, which is, I mean, essentially like the new Iron Man to a good degree.
Mhm.
And that spear fight on the bridge that follows, you have orcas jump up on one side of the bridge and people jump off of orcas. You have a whale,
humpback whale.
yeah,
on the
big
other
blue whale
side,
hop
yeah.
up on the other side and people jump off, and it's like, oh dang,
Yeah.
like Namor's army they're not coming to play, like they mean
Yeah.
business. They basically took them out with like one of those little water grenades, and that really
Mhm.
demonstrated how powerful those grenades are. And those grenades make a comeback throughout the movie. It's not
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was a
in
single
a big way too.
in a huge way. That wasn't a single use item. You see those grenades come back later. So to demonstrate how powerful one of them was, and then to
Mhm.
show them at the end of the movie,
The
you
end
got
of the movie, they basically
whales, hauling in.
500 of them. Or
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
So because you think about a water bomb and it's like, oh, what are they throwing water balloons at each
It's a
other?
water balloon. Yeah.
But no, those things are awesome. But the spear fight that followed
Mhm.
just had so much weight to it, and just
It did. Yeah.
a lot of good like single cuts, and that part where he slams his spear in the ground and then shoves her against his own spear.
Yeah.
And the follow-up line was, "You're not worthy of my spear."
Mhm.
I was like, dang,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
That was really good.
That may be mine. That may be
See, Cole, you didn't take notes and now you're copying my answers.
I
That's
mean,
what we talked about.
that, but I also did like them initially going to the college to get
Mhm.
Ironheart, right?
Mhm.
That,
See, that was a neat part of the movie, but for me, I feel like that might be my least favorite part. I
Really?
feel like the dialogue was the least well written.
I mean, I like
for
that
those
they
parts.
didn't like, oh, we're gonna take 30 minutes or 40 minutes out of the movie to go get this one character. Like they were quick in and out, but it was still, I think it was well done. And then also the Iron Man suit and everything, that was pretty dope as well.
That was cool. She's got an Iron Man suit.
Yeah, that might be that made me laugh.
I think the college scene was one of the most Marvel movie feeling
I
moments
get it.
of the movie.
It stands out, but
Yeah, I agree.
it sticks out kind of like a sore thumb. But I mean,
Mhm.
I thought I enjoyed it personally.
I almost wonder. So, like, from what I've read, if I understand it correctly, is they were almost completely done writing the movie. They were about to start filming, and then Chadwick passed away. So they basically had to go back and kind of scrap almost the entire movie and rewrite it, which is why it got delayed and pushed back. I almost wonder how much of that was holdover from the original script. Was Ironheart always supposed to be in it? That college scene had to happen, so they just left that in the new script because it definitely felt like kind of this like disjuncture. It felt like it was different from the rest of the movie.
It did. It was very lighthearted, funny, trying to be funny jokes.
I mean, that's just kind of Marvel's MO, though.
It was, yeah, but it didn't fit the tone of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, where the rest of the movie is like very dark and serious and dialogue heavy. That one was full of like banter and just comedical moments. So, Josh, what was your favorite moment? Cole copied my answer. What's yours?
I gave an alternative answer.
Have something.
An alternative answer. I would say my favorite moment from the movie was when Shuri got captured and they went back to Wakanda and the Queen just unleashed her wrath on the general.
Just fire that lady, just right there
straight
on the spot.
fire her. And then the line where she's like, I have lost everything, all of my family. Have I not given everything for Wakanda? And I'm getting chills thinking about the scene because it's just so raw and powerful. That's probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
That was really good. And like, you felt bad for the person getting fired. Gosh, I looked up her name here, and I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to mispronounce like half of these. Actually, to the point I'm probably not going to do it. You guys know who we're talking about. The general who's been in all the Black Panther, moments and movies. That main character who leads that aren't part of the army. She's been there. She's like part of the family at one point. She even calls people like brother, sister, mother, things like that.
And at one point they even mentioned she pulled a spear on her husband in the first Black Panther. And that was the part, has she not given everything? And then Queen just one up.
But you also like agreed with the Queen in that scene though.
Yeah.
Like the Queen didn't want her to go. She said, no, you're not going to take Shuri. Like that's dangerous. It's stupid. You can go on your own, take someone different. And they ignored her wishes. So like in that moment, as cruddy as it was, it's like, I kind of agree with the Queen on this one. You screwed up.
Well, yeah, she just lost her son. I don't remember how long it is. Is it 4 years?
I think it was 1 year.
It was 1 year?
1
Okay.
year. Yeah.
So it's like 1 year later. Now you've just lost your daughter. Your husband died in the previous movie. It's like your life is in shambles right now. So you have every right to be angry.
Yeah. Man, just thinking about that character and like talking about like how most of the warriors, it seems like the warriors that are in the forefront of Wakanda are all women. I put this here on my likes. I literally just put Wakanda women are jacked. And
They are.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I loved it. That opening scene, it was where they're like carrying the coffin. It's sad. Don't get me wrong. But to watch those 6 women just one-handed, just boom, and their biceps were popping out, I was like, okay, goals, right? Like I need
to get in the gym.
I need to
again.
hit the gym.
Yeah.
I want to look like a Wakandan woman. Like I thought that was so cool. In general, this movie, as well as the last Black Panther movie, I thought was really cool. It's a female-led cast, especially this one, now that Chadwick's not in it. Almost entirely female-led cast, and at no point did it feel like they were doing it for the sake of doing it. It was so awesome to see these very empowered women, and they all have their own reasons for doing what they're doing. They all have these deep backstories and reasons for who they are, and I thought that was awesome. I think it's a really good example of like the one that comes to mind is like the Ghostbusters remake. I hate the Ghostbusters remake for like a slew of reasons, but at the end of the day, regardless whether in the writing room that's actually their reasoning or not, it did feel as if they were like, hey, let's do a female Ghostbusters. Like that was the goal. And could they have done that good? Yeah, they could have. I just think the movie was done poorly. But in this one, it's just like, I don't think that was their goal. It just happened. And I think that that's awesome.
Yeah, and going back to it, I don't think I ever got to say, but like leading up to the movie, I was worried that it, with the way the world is going nowadays and politically charged media and everything, I expected this movie to be super woke and like woman power, Black Power, and it was, but it was subtle.
It
It
was-
wasn't thrown in your face.
Yeah.
And that I ashamedly, that's kind of what I expected to see, was it just to be lambasted in your face from a big platform.
I think there's a lot of, I mean, we should address that. There's a lot of people online who, and I'm just going to call them as they are being very racist about the perception of this movie. I've seen people who, when they saw how the audience score was like good on some sites, were screaming, well, it's only good because it's politically correct, or it's only good because, you know, it's a, you know, like you just kind of said. I disagree with those people. The movie is good because it's good.
Yeah, it's
That's
well written, it's
stuff-
well directed.
Yeah.
It's good.
If you think this movie is good just because it is about indigenous races in Africa and minorities and things like that, that's a problem. You need to check yourself a little
Yeah.
bit. It was a very good movie. And yeah, like there was a couple lines here and there, like I think Shuri at one point says like, "Oh, my favorite colonizer." You know, there's a
Mhm.
few jokes, but like I never at any point, like you said, like I never felt like it was extra, or that was the route they were trying for. It was just a very well done movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, that colonizer that she's mentioning is Martin Freeman's character, who, for the life of me, I can't remember. Looking it up here on IMDb, Martin Freeman played Everett Ross, and he was a detective in the first Black Panther movie. Where does his character come into this? Because I'm going to be honest, in the MCU, I forgot where he like first comes in.
I'm drawing a blank too. I think he first got introduced in the first Black Panther.
Did he?
I think so.
Okay.
Um,
He made comments about how like I owe Shuri my life, and
well,
like I couldn't
he
remember
was
what
in
Shuri
Wakanda
did.
in the big fight against Killmonger. He was flying the virtual plane. He's the one that shot down the last.
You watched the original Black Panther more recently than
I did, like
yeah.
a week before this one, because I hadn't watched it before. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
yeah, that's where he came in at.
Gotcha.
I don't remember exactly how he got involved.
Like to that point though, I think his storyline was really important to the movie. When I first left the theater, I thought that his storyline kind of felt extra. It didn't feel needed, but at the end of the day, his story was really important because his whole motives was to show, you know, if other nations had vibranium the way that Wakanda had vibranium, it would be bad. And you could say that on paper, but without having a storyline to demonstrate that evil, it kind of just falls flat. But his storyline really showed like, it's good that Wakanda is so closed border, closed resource about when it comes to vibranium and it comes to protecting its people, because even though they had that little moment at the beginning of the movie with like the Geneva Convention like meeting, his storyline really drives home, yeah, America totally, if they got vibranium, would be making like weapons of mass destruction with it 100%. And I know it's a comic book, but like I think IRL, like that would be the case.
Oh yeah,
I think
for sure,
no doubt about it. So I think that his thing was really good. Another thing on here, like, so you had his storyline, you had all these different storylines going on, and there was a lot of different like language in this movie. Another thing I really liked, I don't know if you guys noticed it, every time there's like a different language, the language had a different subtitle font.
Yeah,
I thought that was so cool.
I guess I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so like Wakandans was like white and like a pretty vanilla text,
Like the tradition,
the
like,
traditional.
I
Text.
think it's to be like, hey, this is the language. Everything else is like, you know, like going to be different.
Yeah, and then the blue people that I can't remember what they.
The Namorians,
The Namorians.
something with
the people from Aquaman.
something with a T. Thakaka, I don't know.
The
But anyways, theirs was like blue and old
like
style
wavy,
script
had like little
kinda.
stars,
Mhm.
yeah, on it. And
Yeah.
then they speak French at one point, and I think French was like yellow
Yeah.
with like these white borders. I thought that was cool.
It was cool. It distincted. Hey, these are three different dialects and different languages.
I thought it was cool in general, just how many cultures they managed to mesh together. Because I mean, the first Black Panther movie like is already, at least on paper, like I'm be the first to admit I have no clue about like African culture. Like, you know, that's not something I've studied or been exposed to very much in our school system. But like from what I understand is they took a lot of different cultures and kind of blended them together for the first Black Panther movie to kind of make this like unique Wakandan culture that borrows from all of them. And I thought in this one they expanded on that and they brought in, you know, past Africa, they brought in other cultures and kind of blended them as well.
It was like Central America, Mayans, and
yeah,
stuff like that.
I thought that was awesome, though, how smoothly they connected all those cultures, and it was one really good representation, but then like two, like they just did it in such a nice way that I like kind of made me want to go look up more about them, but I wanted to wait till after we did this episode so I wouldn't be influenced in any way. But like I definitely like as far as Namor's people go, and like they called it like the mother language and stuff like that, made me kind of want to go look into that and be like, is this a real language? Is this something like, what is this based on?
Yeah.
Something I did not like Namor's village. I thought, so they go there, they put Shuri in the suit that, as far as I know, they stole from the military. Doesn't make sense how they got it. But then they take her down that tunnel and they get there. And I feel like, so taking it like versus like Jason Momoa's Aquaman, that city was bright and vibrant and cool of rainbow colors. There's an octopus playing the drums and everyone's swimming. You know, like it's awesome. Sharks with lasers on their freaking foreheads. And then Namor's like underwater village, other than the sun that he brought down there, was like dark.
Yeah.
And I also loved that his people swam at like normal people speed. I thought that was kind of funny. I just assumed that they like had fins and could swim really fast, but at one point a person needed to go grab like a fruit or something like 5 feet from them, and they were like struggling to swim over. And I was like, you think they'd be better swimmers?
My one bone to pick with that scene, and I think I said this on the way home, was that suit that Shuri uses to go down that far. Obviously they stole that from whoever that was in the opening scene. I don't remember if it's ever said, but in that scene, it's very well known that the suit has to have a tether for electricity, oxygen. It's vital resources. And then they're like, nope, Shuri, just get in this thing, and then you can just float around like it's nothing. There's no tether. There's no power source. Like, you're just floating around.
You know, it just works, except when it doesn't.
Yeah. That definitely, like, you pointed that out in the car, and I was like, yeah, that's definitely like
it's just like an oversight. It doesn't really affect the movie any. It's just like Marvel's usually pretty good about detail, and that's just one detail. It's like, that doesn't make sense.
That whole scene, if you have thalassophobia, is not for you. Which, like, in case you don't know what thalassophobia is like a fear of like deep water, like the ocean, not knowing what's down there. She's flying through that tunnel like Mach 1 going on that river current, and like I'm like, if she like taps her head on the wall or scrapes her suit, she's done.
Well, and I mean, if you have that phobia, the scene in the beginning where you first see those suits, that would freak you out too, because it's pitch black. You're in the bottom of the ocean.
That was maybe one of my favorite like pieces of direction in this film. I put that down. Like, I loved the direction in the first half of this movie more than the last half. The last half gets a little bloated, feels a little like a Marvel movie, especially that big fight scene. But the first half of this movie is a really solid horror adjacent film. And when you don't know who Namor's people is, and like that scene where they're like
being sirens, basically
singing people off the boat,
making people dive off of a ship.
I'm getting chills thinking about like that was a very well done scene. One thing I didn't like going back, I was thinking about when you mentioned the suit earlier, is she's looking at that jellyfish and she calls it a phantom jellyfish. I've never seen one of like this close before, and I'm like, is that a real thing? Should I know what a phantom jellyfish is? Is that a real creature? And then they never bring it back
touch
up.
It again.
Yeah. Did Namor ride that jellyfish?
Yeah, who knows?
Like, what was the purpose of that jellyfish? What was it doing?
Our fact checker is going to tell us whether.
Cole, are you looking up a phantom jellyfish?
Phantom jellyfish.
Is that a real thing?
I'm not connected to the internet. Listen.
It was a really cool scene. We can look it up later. I mean, hey, if you know what a phantom jellyfish is, I was gonna say leave a comment, but I don't think there's comments on Spotify.
Okay.
Email me.
Yeah, it exists.
It's a real thing.
Nice.
Do they have like magic powers? Like, what are they?
It's just a big old jellyfish.
Just a big old jellyfish.
Yeah. Stygio Medusa is the Stygio Medusa gigantea. I butchered that Latin.
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed that. Don't count yourself.
I don't even know if it's Latin. I'm just assuming it is.
Most of the time it is.
Except when it's not.
But yeah, no, I love that they brought that in. I liked overall the way that they handled animals in this one versus Aquaman. Like, Aquaman was a very, very comic book movie. Like,
I didn't see that one either.
The end of Aquaman, there's like these like prehistoric dinosaur alligators with laser machine guns strapped to them. Like, and there's a kraken, and they're fighting sharks with, I'm not exaggerating, fighting sharks with lasers on their foreheads.
To be fair though, isn't that what the whole thing is supposed to be though? It's a comic book.
It's
based on a comic book.
Oh, 100%. That was maybe my favorite part of the Aquaman movie. But I liked in this one, considering they're going for that more grounded approach, the way they handled Namor having control of the animals, since he's essentially Marvel's Aquaman, I thought was more grounded. Like, they apparently have some way of communicating with them, and the animals help them, but they help them in very natural supportive ways, like carrying a nuke to the boat, or like being a bus.
Yeah, pretty much.
I thought that was cool.
It was cool.
So, hey, like, any final, like, I've got a lot of like likes and dislikes on here we can talk about all day. But I feel like we're at 29 minutes now. Maybe we need to like start jumping to the rubric. You guys got any final thoughts before we like start plugging stuff in here?
I mean, really my take, like between the first and second one, like I need to go watch the first one again because it's been a while, but I remember liking the first one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it matches what the first one was, but it was still really good. That's
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to overtake it. Like,
Yeah.
First Black Panther's probably. I mean, I know it's a lot of people's like all-time favorite Marvel movie. My it's like fringe top 10 for me, but
Okay.
but Wakanda Forever is probably sitting around that mid-teens.
Mid-teens. It's
I have to write it out and see kind of where it falls in.
I guess my problem is I've seen so many Marvel movies that unless I go back and rewatch them all, I don't know where half of them place in my heart. I know that Winter Soldier's up there. Like it's a top 3 for me, you know.
See, I got my top 5's a lock.
Can you tell me? Okay, that's a really good point. Tell me your top 5 real fast.
Okay, so I'm going to go from 5 to 1.
Okay.
So 5 was...
I thought you had this locked.
It's Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, okay.
It's still Ragnarok.
He's like, I've got this locked, but also let me think.
I was like, I had my top 5 like listed in case that came up. So,
You're reading the mental notebook. Okay, 5 is Ragnarok.
4 is Civil War.
Good one.
3 is my 2 and 3's flip, but right now it's 3. Like it depends on the week for 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 is currently Endgame.
Okay.
2 is Infinity War, and 1 is the boys know Spider-Man No Way Home. It's
No Way Home was tight. So Winter Soldier's nowhere in your top 5?
I mean, it's up there, but it's not in my top 5. It's
Yeah.
probably in the top 10.
I feel like that's a lot of people when you ask them. And maybe that's just because it's the popular answer. Like it's a non-offensive answer to say Winter Soldier, but a lot of people that's up there for them.
I mean, it's fringe. I mean, the 2 that could have made my top 5 that had a really strong case are the first Doctor Strange and the first Guardians movie.
Guardians is one of my favorite movies, but that's just because I love the source material so much.
Those 2 easily could have snuck their way in there.
Yeah. All right. So like last thing here before we start plugging stuff in, I asked you what your favorite part of the movie was. I got to ask now, what was your least favorite part of the movie? And it's such like a picking point because it's subjective, but I think my least favorite part of the movie was just like the CGI, especially in the last half during like the big fight scenes. I thought it was rough. There was one part where they're fighting on top of the boat, and like you can tell that a lot of people there are CG, and spears aren't actually connecting with physical things. They're just floating through people, and it's in slow-mo too, so it's really apparent. I just felt like a lot of the visuals in this movie were very lacking compared to like Marvel movies 5 years ago. I know there's people on strike, and that's probably the cause, but like I thought the visuals as far as CG goes were very lackluster in this film.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, there's not really like a part that in this movie that sticks out where it's like, okay, that part kind of sucked. Like it was, or like it's. I mean, you guys say the college scene. I didn't say you didn't say it sucked, but it's like, okay, that feels kind of out of place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really don't have a part that really sticks out. That's like, I didn't really care for that. I mean, everything was either like, that was all right to okay, this is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty consistent.
I would say my least favorite part would probably be the character of Namor. I don't know. I just
didn't like Namor.
Not that I didn't like
Namor.
Dango fish person.
Not that I didn't like him. It's just I don't feel like he was well written. I didn't hate him, but I didn't love him. I don't know. And then they don't really defeat him. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just feel like he was very non-event.
You know what, Josh? You did bring that up. Hey, there it is. That's my least favorite part. Yeah, you didn't kill the man. You had a chance to.
Oh, they should have, though.
They should have killed him, yeah.
I personally liked Namor compared to what my knowledge of Namor is in the comics, which is not a ton, mind you. I'm not a Namor stan. I thought that like he was a good character. And something I did like about this movie in general is I felt like most of the people in this movie had a reason for doing what they do. There was no evil in this movie. No one was out there to nuke the world just because. You could argue at the beginning maybe that's kind of Namor's cause, but I think it's implied that Namor, living as long as he has, knows that if he doesn't do something, humanity is garbage and they need to be eradicated. You could argue that one way or the other, but I think that like he was content to keeping to himself until like this happened.
Yeah.
And like they started trying to mine vibranium, and Namor was like, okay, if humans start getting vibranium, that's a problem. We need to address it. And then I feel like he was on the cusp of being talked down off that ledge when he was with Shuri in the Underground City. I felt like that we were about to have that breakthrough. And then the Wakandans did their little infiltration mission and they killed his people, and that pushed him over the edge. But like at the flip side of that, the reason they did the infiltration mission is because they thought that Shuri was kidnapped. It was just
Mhm.
misinformation. Both sides didn't have the full story. So I kind of felt like at the end of this movie that no one was evil for evil's sake. They had reasons for doing what they did and believing what they believe. But I do 100% agree with Cole. I feel like the morals were wishy-washy. You have, I think his name was Mbaktu, I think was his name, who's one of my favorite characters in both movies. At the beginning of the movie, he's like, let's kill this fish man. And I think he was eating a carrot. He's like, let's kill this guy. Like, string him up. And then at the end of the movie, he's like, let's have compassion on the fish people.
Yeah.
And then Shuri decides to have compassion. And then the movie, I was like, okay, so the movie wants us to think compassion's good. That's the moral. But then they end the movie by showing that Namor plans on utilizing Wakanda for evil. I was like, okay, well, maybe they should have killed him. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm sticking with it. Namor is probably my least favorite part of the movie.
he's your least favorite part. I hated his winged ankles.
Yeah, that
It was weird.
They
And then whenever
freaked
Shuri
me out.
ripped him off of there at the end, it was like,
That was kind of cool though.
it was cool, but it made my ankles hurt.
Yeah, I love that.
That seems painful.
I love the way Shuri defeated Namor because she's brains. She's
Mhm.
brains over brawn. And she took the Black Panther serum or whatever, and she is now strong. But at the end of the day, her brains is what makes Shuri the defender. And she uses her brains to build the chamber that dehydrates him. She uses her brains to take him to the desert. And then at the end, after her physical prowess failed, she defeated him by using her environment and just outsmarting Namor. I thought that was a really cool use of fight. Whereas the previous Black Panther was about, I'm just going to be better than this person, like physically. Shuri was just smarter, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah. I enjoyed Shuri's character arc a lot in this movie.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. Just in general, like across both movies and across the MCU, I feel like Shuri has really shined through in a nice way, and I'm excited to see what they do. Alrighty, any last thoughts before we start doing this? Alrighty, I'm gonna start here with our first category, which is plot. What would you guys give plot? I'm gonna give the plot personally. I'm gonna give it a 4. I think it was good overall. It was a little lacking in some areas, like with character motivations and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. It was a geopolitical movie more than like your traditional Marvel, almost like comedic action movie that they just shove out the door.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we allowing decimals? Like if I'm stuck.
Hey,
between
give me a
two?
decimal. Give me a decimal. That's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 on the plot.
Okay.
I mean, I was kind of torn. Like, was the plot bad? No, it wasn't. Did it get from point A to point B? It did. It did what it was supposed to do, and it did it. It did it well. But I'm not gonna give it a 5 because it wasn't like. I mean, it did tell a story really well on what is happening when there's no Black Panther. What is Wakanda like when there's no Black Panther to defend it? I think it did that really well. But I mean, like the other plot was just like, here's a bad guy. Here's all this stuff in there. It got to the end. We got to a conclusion. It was just overall just generally good plot.
Yeah,
but not enough to earn a 5 for me. And I'm like in the 4. I'm like, I'm just gonna go in between.
Okay,
be safe.
Are we rating out of 5 or 10?
Out of 5.
Well,
this is our first episode, people. We are still ourselves learning how best to approach this.
for some reason, I thought we were out of 10 basis points. So,
Just divide by 2.
Yeah, just divide everything in half. You work at a bank. You got that.
Yeah.
You can do that,
I
right?
can. Yeah. So my
Why are you
original,
sweating, Josh? You're
I'm-
sweating profusely.
You threw a curveball at me. I thought we were rating it out of a 10. So I'm going to go with a 4
Okay.
on plot. I felt like it was.
Are you typing our scores in?
I am.
Okay.
I don't pick up a whole lot on plot holes when I watch movies, and so for me, I feel like the plot was straightforward and well executed. So
All right. Speaking of plot holes, let's go on to continuity next. Continuity, being how it fits in the overall scheme of the MCU, as well as like its continuity within itself. I'm going to be pretty generous here. Again, I think that this one is also a 4 for me. For the most part, there weren't many plot holes in this film that I thought really took me out of it and unimmersed me. And I loved, we talked about it. It's a standalone movie. It did what it set out to do. And it didn't even set up really a sequel that much. It's just kind of like, we exist as a good movie. Please watch it. And I really liked that.
For my continuity, boys, it's time. It's the first episode, but the 5 is coming out for this one.
That's you can give 5 on every episode if you want. That's fine.
We're going to 5 on this one. I mean, I felt like it being a standalone movie is really what put it over the edge because I think that kind of helps it in that case where it's like, 'Cause I feel like if you start adding all the other little things, then you have a higher chance of retconning something or saying something that's like, okay, that's a plot hole now, where you just kind of contradicted what the previous 3 movies set up, and it's like,
Mhm.
and you didn't really they didn't really set up anything either, so it was like they're not stuck doing that. Like, okay, they set this thing up, and then if they don't address it in a later movie, it's like, well, crap, Wakanda Forever kind of screwed that up.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 4.5. So a couple notes on continuity that I had down here. I really enjoyed how they handled the death of T'Challa. I felt like that was handled really well. We kind of discussed that already. The mid-credit scene at the end, where they set up that T'Challa has a son. Big spoiler alert. But anyways,
Hey, we're well into spoiler. At this point, we are huge into spoilers. We've
But
talked
yeah,
about
you
the whole
haven't
movie.
clicked off by now. What is
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Yeah.
What if that was the pushing point for someone? They're like, "What? I didn't watch." Flip their tables.
I mean, if you're
But
that
the
person,
fact
that's
that
really funny.
that Marvel set it up to where down the road, his son could become Black Panther at some point was really cool for me. And then I enjoyed how for the most part of the movie they didn't have a Black Panther, and so you weren't 100% sure. At least I wasn't 100% sure if they were even going to bring the character back.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the heart-shaped herb, they didn't have a way to do it. But then they, Shuri's brains and smarts, they were able to, and they made Shuri Black Panther so that character can live on in the future Marvel movies. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of those things where it's like, I would compare the Black Panther character to like Doctor Who in that sense, where it's like you have someone who is the Black Panther, but it could be a different person though, having this role. That's kind of the best way I can see it. So it's gonna be one of those characters that just live on.
British people are screaming right now. All 0 of our British audience is freaking out
Come
over
at
that
me.
comparison.
Come at me.
All 0 of them.
Yeah.
Something I just thought about that I didn't realize. We were talking about continuity. Shuri wouldn't have been able to create the heart-shaped herb if Namor had not been nice and given her that bracelet.
That is true.
Bracelet that was his mom's, that he's had since he was a child. That was his extension of the olive branch.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge piece of him that he gave to her.
And
then
some
if it
could argue that it wouldn't have made sense for Namor to give that up. There's a whole lot of other things that he could have given her as an olive branch, but he chose to give that up, and I think that's plot armor.
A little bit. I think he was really trying to win over Wakanda. I think he was like, we need Wakanda. They're the only people that have a chance of standing against us. So I think
he definitely was.
that was him. Like, yeah.
I don't know. Some could argue that.
You're right.
Namor would not have given that up without plot.
I guess you could argue that is both a good thing that the movie did that or a bad thing. But yeah, I didn't realize it till now. If he had not given that to Shuri, she would not have completed the heart-shaped herb.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Revelations. We should have done this while we were watching the movie. Do the podcast like live, like
in the movie theater.
Yeah. All right. Characters. I'm giving characters a 5 out of 5. I mean, there's really no. I mean, I know you said you didn't like Namor. I personally like Namor. The only character I thought even that was like mildly not super well done was Ironheart, but I mean, she was a spinoff. I wouldn't want to say throwaway character. They might bring her back. Who knows? But at the end of the day, like I thought all the characters were well done. Well written. You understood where they came from, where they're trying to go, why they are who they are. I thought that the characters is a 5 out of 5.
I think a 4.8 for me. It's almost a 5, but the Namor character really throws it off. Shuri's character arc, top notch. The Queen's passing and her fire through the movie, top notch. The General. I mean, there was so many good characters, but I don't know. I just feel like the villain was super lacking in the movie, so can't give it a 5.
I would give it a 4.5 for the characters.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, they're all really good. But I mean, there's some where it's like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't feel like I was as attached to some of these characters as I am for, like, other, which I'm, just Marvel casual. So it's, or I like my Tony Stark, my Steve Rogers, Peter Parker, that kind of stuff. And like, I don't feel a bond with these characters like I would for, like, all the OGs of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Fair. Yeah. Alrighty. Direction is a tough one for me because, like I stated, I think the direction in the first 2/3 of this movie was very well done. It was super grounded. Didn't feel like a Marvel movie. It was very long, dialogue driven, very nuanced. And then in the last third, you have a Marvel action brawl. And so it's You know, the first half of the movie is a 5. The second half of the movie for me is like a 2 or a 3. I think all in all, I know I'm giving lots of 4s here. I'm going to split it down the middle, and I think I'm going to give this one a 4 again. I did do decimals when I typed out mine earlier. But yeah, I think this one's a 4 for me. There were things that were super, super well done, but it kind of fell apart at the end.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. I mean, the kind of is reading the description for like what we have considering for direction. I mean, the visuals, and they were cool, but I mean, some of the CG was kind of, This is a very broad category. And then really, I felt like at some points, I'm like, this movie is dark. Like, not that it's serious. I'm like, this movie's just dark. I can't see anything.
Yeah, like
it was a dark movie.
Especially like when they went under, like to the waters.
I'm like,
to the
what's
underwater
going
city.
on? I can't.
Yeah.
So it's 3.5 for me.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 4 as well. Partly because it's not very visually impressive. There's a couple scenes that are just meh, but there was nothing that I was just like, wow, like this is a visual masterpiece. But what I did enjoy was the soundscape and the score. I was lucky enough to sit middle of the theater. Perfect seat. I don't ever get that opportunity really. And so for me, the use of surround sound, I was super immersed in the movie, even though it wasn't visually impressive. It was very audio. Impressive.
Side note, I bought those tickets, 2 weeks in advance. That's kind of the reason I love about the theater we've been going to and why I like to order tickets ahead of time so I can pick my seats better. And I picked the 4 right smack dab in the middle of the theater that were available for that reason. We didn't even talk about the soundtrack, but the soundtrack was this awesome, like, blend of cultures, blends of styles. Like, it was mixing old with new. Yeah,
it didn't use hip hop as heavy as the first Black Panther did, which I enjoyed because I didn't feel like it was needed. But the music in general was just very good.
I think like the hip hop was used in the first movie for like a couple different reasons, but I also think that fit Chadwick Boseman. That kind of fit his interpretation of Black Panther. And then this newer one, we're focusing on Shuri and like what's left behind. Yeah, it was there like a little bit, but like it was a lot more culturally. I can't say that word. You know the word I'm trying to say. It was rich in culture. Yes. And I thought it was very new. Yeah, the soundtrack, the score, the sound effects, like very well done. I mean, even for a Marvel movie, a step above. I agree. So 4 for direction. Alrighty. And like, here's the last one, the big one, enjoyment. This category, it can be a combination of all the things we've talked about before. It could be a standalone, like, hey, like everything else on this, you could give a 1 and you could still give an enjoyment a 5. Enjoyment for me, overall 4. Like Cole said, it's up there in my favorites. It's not my favorite. But at least on the first viewing, it could go up or down on a subsequent viewing. But like, I've really enjoyed it. Overall, I thought it was good.
I'm going to give it a 3 for enjoyment.
Ooh.
It's middle of the road, so it's going to get the middle of the road score. There's been about, I think, 31 MCU movies now at this point.
So this one for you is middle of the road, Marvel?
Ish.
Okay.
Ish.
I think it's on that upper third.
I mean, I would have to sit down and like go through all of them and like kind of where would I rank them based on, I mean, a lot of them's going to be off of memory because I haven't seen them in forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like if I was to rank it right now, I'd probably end up in that 14 to 18 range, maybe, depending on what's in there.
All right, Josh, you're the last one. Bring us home.
I'm going to give it a 4.
That's it? No. No comments?
Hey,
Why'd you give it?
Keep in mind, I'm the one that doesn't have the notes here, and Josh is not giving any room.
No, everything that I've already said, I enjoyed the writing a ton. I feel like most of the dialogue was top-notch. Audio-wise, top-notch. Story-wise, I enjoyed it. My only big nitpick was a couple elements, like the suit and some minor things, and then the visuals, and then Namor. But other than that, it was a good movie.
Okay.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, hey, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the timestamp here. When we sat down, like talking about, hey, this is our first time doing this podcast. This is our first, like, we're gonna, what should we shoot for? And we all said 20 to 30 minutes. We're at 50 minutes.
I thought it'd probably go closer to an hour.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I love long
There's a
form.
lot. There's
Hey,
a lot of talking points.
If you've stuck with us this far into this podcast, thank you. You're probably my grandma and like my, like
Or my wife.
yeah, or like our friend, who's in our band with us. He listened to the old podcast. He's a freak. I don't. He's a weirdo. So hey, if you've stuck with us this far, your reward. I ended up giving it at the end of the day. I gave it an 84%. Cole gave it a 78. Josh was the most lenient amongst us with an 85.20%. All of that culminates to a total score of 82.40%. Since my idea sent out for this was to kind of review it like we're teachers reviewing something, I think I got to round that down to an 82%. You can't give a kid an 82.4 grade on something.
It's not have to round it up. So
what kind of weirdo? But it's not at that 0.5. So our final score for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is an
B.
82%. It's a low B, which when you look at something, a lot of people beat themselves up if they don't get an A, but I mean, C is average, right?
Mhm.
C is the average. So a low B, that's good. That's a good, and to me, it's in that upper third of Marvel movies.
Yeah, and it's one of the best Marvel movies that has come out.
It's
recently.
the best one this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
for sure.
100%. The only thing that comes close is, well, I mean, No Way Home is better.
No Way Home was
significantly,
2021, though.
but like nothing else recent by Marvel has been close.
I mean,
they've missed the mark.
Mr. Dr. Morbius would have
It's Morbin time. Yeah, we're
Morbin
considering Morbius a Marvel movie.
I mean, it technically is.
It's not really a Marvel movie, but Werewolf by Night was really good.
Werewolf by Night was very good. Hey, maybe we need to do the next episode on Werewolf by Night.
I think we should do it on Morbin time.
Morbin time. Hey, my final thing here, final thoughts. If you guys have anything you want to add, but like in addition to that, I just got to ask, like, how do we feel about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and where we think it's going next? Because personally, it's been in a rough spot with the leaving of a lot of that original cast, the directors and Kevin Feige and all those people backing off. It's felt like it hasn't had a direction. They're definitely leaning for a multiverse, quantum realm, something kind of future.
They're going to set up Kang is what this is good.
Yeah.
It's the next big bad. I mean, you got Secret Wars that they're gonna have to start building for. I mean,
like we mentioned earlier, though, my fear with like Kang has not been in a movie. He's only in the shows. If you're not watching the shows, and Cole just said Kang, you don't know who Kang is. Like you had to watch Loki, and that worries me for the future. Are they going to keep splitting it? Are they finally going to like commit to the movie format and then keep the TVs as spinoffs? I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I honestly can't tell you where
where
Marvel's going to go.
There's a lot.
It's really a crapshoot. I mean, they've released a lot of titles, a lot of high expected titles over the next few years. So hopefully they have a long overarching plan. But if you look back, over the last couple of years, it's rough. So they got a hole to crawl out of. This was a good starting point.
Which I think there's a lot of high expectations because I think we can all agree the initial run of Iron Man 1 to Endgame is never going to be able to be repeated again. Like how well that was done.
Probably never.
It's
not in our lifetime.
Like
you're setting up some iconic characters.
That was 11 years in the making.
I love to think that like 100 years from now, they're going to like do it again. Like start from scratch. Like we're going to be dead in the ground and our great grandkids are going to be like, oh man, Endgame's coming out. The remake of Endgame. I'm so excited. My grandpa loved that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, just how well they managed to address all those characters in one universe with all these different movies and how they had it planned out. It's just perfect. They nailed it on that. So I don't think they're going to be able to achieve that level with this run. But if they could get somewhat close to it,
so if they could get a third of it,
it'd
be a good movie.
If they could somewhat match the energy of the first run of it, they'll be all right.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's. I mean, it's just high expectations because you peaked. That was.
DC's definitely going that route where they're like, okay, we connected everything, it flopped. Like, let's focus on standalone movies. And it feels like Marvel's maybe with Black Panther. It feels like it's that first step towards does everything have to be connected all the time?
Yeah.
You know, I think that might be the best direction for them right now. And then slowly but surely bring them back together for another big event in the future. But I think this was a good step in the right direction for Marvel.
I believe you are correct.
Yeah. Alrighty. Any last thoughts? Because I think, man, I have so much stuff on here, like my likes and dislikes, but we're coming up on 53 minutes now, and I think that people are probably tired of hearing our voices.
Yeah, I don't know what psycho is listening to 53 minutes of us.
Josh mentioned he hated hearing his voice, so I'm going to make sure when I mix this later, I'm going to really bump up his vocals. He's going to be louder than all of us.
I appreciate it.
If you made it this far, thank you for listening. I'm probably going to be putting a Google form in the description of the Spotify here. So if you have comments, what you liked, what you disliked, recommendations for our next movie, old movies you think we should go back and review, we'd love to hear from you guys. If you think it was terrible, tell us. Your hate fuels me. So, alrighty. Hey, thank you guys for listening. If you've made it this far, this was our first episode. We hope to only get better from here. Peace.